is Fall Start, a college football podcast for everyone and everyone else. I'm your host, John Buhler, lead writer, fansided.com. I'm joined today by a man who doesn't wet the bed, who still has aspirations to win an Oscar. So keep drinking that Pepsi Fuller. Cody Williams, content director, fansided.com. A real pain in me. How are you?
Dude, make sure we put on the rubber sheets tonight. I'm drinking a lot of Pepsi. Let's go, man. Shouts to Kieran Culkin. Shouts to the Oscars. My wife actually asked me this morning. She said, sorry, the NC State podcast. She's not my wife, God forbid. But she came in and she's like, "Hey, did you see who all won the Oscars last night?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And she goes, "Oh, was it anything we've seen?" And I was like, "I think we've seen Dune 2, and that's it. So no."
Yeah, I got two dogs here who bark at everything here. They're very excited about the Oscars and everything like that. Yeah, Dune 2. I didn't watch Dune 1. Didn't think there was a point to it. Watched the Jesse Eisenberg,
Mhm.
Kieran Culkin movie that I keep calling the name wrong. Then there was a bunch of other stuff on there that I just didn't care about. But
Yeah.
Kieran Culkin won and he made Jeremy Strong look really sad again.
Uh, Jeremy Strong forever. You know what? Talk about sad boys. Jeremy Strong's a sad boy, man.
Oh yeah, that's like he lost to Kieran Culkin for like best supporting actor in like what in Succession. He loses to him
Yep,
again. The
yep, yep.
same.
It's tough. It's
And,
real tough.
and Kieran's like, I'm about to double the population of the kids in my household.
That's all right. Congrats. Congrats on that, Kieran.
Also, shout out to Nick Offerman, Ron Swanson being the voiceover
Oh
guy.
yeah.
There's no way. Nick's a pretty smart guy, but I'm like the pronunciations of like Ron Swanson trying to do that. There's no way.
Be ice cream or be nothing.
And I don't know if it's the celery of desserts, but we've obviously clearly fall started here. We're going to start with our first at 15 with a slice of pumpkin pie. Cody released his post NFL Combine first round mock draft. Free agency starts up in here in about 2 weeks. So a lot of movers and shakers. I guess probably before I dive in there and give my pushback or props to whatever you did, who from the combine did you see or find out that was like that really moved it, made a name for themselves this weekend?
I think that the biggest one that really kind of stood out to me was Matthew Golden from Texas. Obviously ran, I think, the fastest 40 time among wide receivers. And when you watch Matthew Golden play, like I never got the sense that he was
Yeah,
just like an electric burner. Like I think he's a good player, and I think he was already going to be something close to a first round pick. So to see him run like that, it's actually like they're different players to be very clear, but it reminds me a lot of Justin Jefferson when he was coming out of LSU because people watched his tape and obviously he was highly productive on that LSU team, but people watched his tape and were like, I don't know, does he have like that next level speed? And then he came out and he ran as fast as he did. I believe it was either a high 4.3s or low 4.4s. Regardless, ran way faster than people expected him to. And then that kind of vaulted his draft stock to like secure him to a first round pick. I think Matthew Golden is going to be doing the same thing.
yeah. I was looking at that at your mock draft, and I'm like, I don't see it, but maybe he did something in Indianapolis that people needed to see, like Pat
Yeah.
McAfee diving into a ravine.
That's right. Yeah. No, and I mean like a fourth, like he ran a 4.3 and like
Okay,
for a receiver who's as productive as he was, who made a lot of big plays and was kind of Quinn Ewers' go-to guy in that offense, like to see him run that, like that was actually one of my questions about him as a prospect was, I don't know, man, does this dude have an extra gear? Because I feel like he got caught in the open field quite frequently, but apparently he didn't have to. Maybe he was banged up. I don't know, but he has 4.3 speed in the tank.
maybe Quinn Ewers just outthrows everybody. That's the
That's
best thing I could.
right.
Put him on the Rams. So I guess probably the best way that we're gonna do this is I'm gonna look at your mock draft, probably break it down by like what groups of five or six,
Yeah,
and work. What do you think? Let's
that
just
works for me.
do. Okay, we're gonna start with the top five. With you've got a trade. You've got the Tennessee Titans trading up to one in a deal with the New York Giants.
The
The
the Giants
Giants
trading up to one.
Giants trading up to one with the Titans. Yes, it's early. I
Yeah,
can't
you're
read.
good, man.
Um, I can't really read what the compensation is, but the point is that the New York Giants are going to be drafting Cam Ward, number one, and the Titans will be dropping down and they will be taking, looks like it would be Abdul Carter with Shedeur Sanders going to the Browns there.
Yes, sir. And like that's kind of the buzz that we heard out of Indianapolis throughout the weekend at the combine was it seems like it's the Jets and the Giants trying to trade up to the number one pick. I Again, I've said this before. If I'm the Titans, I'm taking one of these quarterbacks. Like you have the number one pick, make sure you do that. But at the same time, it seems like they are dead set on doing that. And if you don't like either of these prospects, then I guess I understand your thought process. Go get a player like Abdul Carter, who's probably the best player in the draft. Sans Travis Hunter, who has his own can of worms because the two-way player stuff of it all. But like, if you can still trade down, get more draft compensation, get a first round pick next year when the quarterback class should improve, like I think that does make some sense for the Titans. The Giants don't have that luxury. The Giants are like that fan base might burn down MetLife Stadium if they do not get a quarterback.
I mean, I get the move up there for the Giants. I mean, they should have just fired everybody. Again, I'm much higher on Shedeur Sanders than Cam Ward. I don't see it with Cam Ward. I think he's
Yeah.
gonna, but maybe he's the more polished of the two, so to speak. I don't know. The Giants are so far in their head. They're like, we can't draft Deion Sanders' son.
Yeah.
So like, it just kind of feels like a waste. Like Shedeur Sanders is going to the Browns. I want him to go to the Raiders, but what I'm kind of gathering at this point is like maybe they're locked in on Sam Darnold.
Yeah, it seems like to me, I think the Browns are very much in the spot where they're going to bring in, like I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think the Browns are the perfect Kirk Cousins landing spot. It's not like if the Falcons cut him or trade him and eat a lot of the salary, the Browns are in position to where they need a veteran quarterback like that. They need an adult in the room. And you bring in someone like Shador who doesn't come in with all the pressure. Like I think that's one thing that could break Shador is coming in with like to be the guy and have all that pressure on him. I think getting someone like Kirk Cousins to kind of like guide him in there would be ironic to have Kirk Cousins go into the same situation 2 years in a row. But I do think that pairing a veteran with Shador makes a lot of sense for the Browns. And then if you're the Raiders, I think that you're just kind of in no man's land. Like I don't think that the reason I don't have the Raiders or the Jets trading up for a quarterback is I think there's just too much ground to cover. Like I think the Browns are pretty locked in on a quarterback right now. And so that means your only spot to trade up to is number one. Well, the Giants know that too, and the Giants have a lot less way to go. The Titans probably value the number three pick a lot more because you can get an Abdul Carter where you're not going to get that at 6 or 7. So yeah, I think that both the Jets and Raiders end up with a veteran.
That makes sense. And then at 4, you've got Travis Hunter going to the Patriots. I feel like that's where everybody's having him going.
Yeah,
Just play cornerback, man. Like just stop. Just play cornerback and be good. Be elite as opposed to being okay at two different things.
I want him to be good at two different things, man. That's what I really want. But I
Uh,
do think, like, either way, like, I don't think that, I think what makes him enticing to the Patriots, regardless of the two-way stuff, is they need both of those things. Like, whether he wants to play wide receiver, whether he wants to play cornerback, he can do either at a high level, whatever he decides to do. And the Patriots need both of those. They need wide receiver help outside of Christian Gonzalez. They need secondary help. So, like, he fits two needs.
they also may need a new owner. Apparently, the players don't like him. So, St. Louis
Yes.
Stallions, what's up?
Hell yeah,
I,
baby.
I don't know, man. I feel like being an ass today, so whatever. I'm sorry, guys. But then I like my favorite one of the top 5 you've got is Mason Graham going to the Jaguars. I cannot possibly see him falling past that.
Yeah.
This is like basically drafting Calais Campbell out of Miami, and like you got that for a decade. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, I mean it's a no-brainer if you're the Jaguars. Like you have speed on the outside, so get someone who's just an ass kicker in the interior like Mason Graham. Like it makes too much sense for that defense.
Hundo P. So here's what I got for 6 through 10. You got Ashton Genty going to the Raiders, Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher out of A&M, going to the Jets, Will Johnson going to the Panthers, Tyler Warren going to the Saints, and Will Campbell going to the Bears. Um, I honestly like the last like 8, 9, 10 are the ones I'm probably the most fired up about. Like I think Will Johnson going to the Panthers just
Mhm.
makes the Falcons really mad. Tyler Warren, it's like getting the Jimmy Graham as a mongoloid back in
That's
there.
right. You got to have a mongoloid or else the Saints aren't going to be good. What are we
I,
doing?
I just think of Mike Smith back then. Jimmy Graham is a mongoloid.
That's right.
Just breaking the goalpost. And then obviously the Bears need to get a tackle. I think Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks Jr. works there.
Mhm.
Shamar Stewart, I know he probably did really well at the combine or with the idea of him. I think he's too much high variance for me.
Yeah.
And it sounds perfect for the Jets. And then Genty. If you want to go to the Raiders at 6 at this point, like, and you've got Sam Darnold and Pete Carroll, why not? Who cares?
Yeah, so Shamar Stewart at 7. It's funny you mentioned the Jets thing because that's why he's being picked at number 7. Like I had the same concerns with Shamar Stewart as you do. He's obviously a freak when it comes to his athletic tools, but he never really put it together at Texas A&M. Like that didn't translate into production. That seems like the perfect Jets pick. That's the type of player that the Jets bank on traits so often that they're going to do something like that. In terms of Ashton Genty, I started talking myself into this for two reasons. One, if you like, I think with Pete Carroll in the building, they're going to try to win now. Like Pete Carroll doesn't come back in his early 70s to coach if he's not trying to win now. Like he's not here for a rebuild. He's here to try to win. So you bring in a veteran quarterback, you're still kind of devoid of weapons. You get someone like Ashton Genty into the building who and like you think back to Pete Carroll's Seahawks teams and how they drafted. This is a team that drafted Rashad Penny in the first round. This is a team that ran the ball consistently and like there was a reason let Russ cook was a thing in Seattle is because they wanted to run the ball. Well, their running backs freaking suck right now. And so Ashton Genty changes that pretty damn quickly.
Yeah, I mean, Pete Carroll comes back. He's like, I've only got so much enamel left in these teeth while
That's
chewing
right.
the enamel off of his teeth. So yeah, I'm good with that. But like that would be an exceptionally jetty pick for the Jets. Just
Oh
so
yeah.
so incredibly jetty, and I mean that in as disrespectful of a way as possible. Moving on to like, oh, let's do 11 through 16.
Okay.
49ers taking Kelvin Banks. Your Cowboys taking Ted McMillan. Dolphins are taking Malachi Starks. Indianapolis Colts are taking Jahdae Barron. My Falcons are taking James Pierce Jr. And then the Cardinals are taking Mike Green. I don't know if I really want to get James Pierce Jr. He reminds me of Vic Beasley, and I'm gonna cry.
I mean, I think he is much better than Vic Beasley. Vic Beasley came into the league. He was an athlete, but he didn't really have any pass rush arsenal to him. James Pierce Jr. has that. I think he's a much more polished player. I think he's just a better football player than Vic Beasley. Like he's an athlete who is also a football player, as opposed to Vic Beasley, who coming out was an athlete, and that was it.
Yeah, he's an athlete like Pete Eckhart. He's an athlete.
Athlete, three syllables, baby.
And I think the Mike Green stuff, it's kind of hit or miss. It's going to be like the right team. I don't know if the Falcons are in on him. I think it's great that your Cowboys, you're getting a Ted McMillan.
Yeah.
Maybe that's wishful thinking. Maybe it's going to be Omarion Hampton there.
So I will say that that stems from two things that I saw going into the combine, which is Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper Jr. had Ted McMillan falling, I believe, to 19 to the Buccaneers and then 22 to the Chargers in their respective mock drafts. And so it seems like Ted McMillan's stock is falling a little bit. And to me, this reminds me so much. I wrote this up on fansided.com over the weekend. This reminds me a lot of the CeeDee Lamb situation where people are overthinking a really good wide receiver prospect, and the Cowboys are not one to overthink that type of stuff. If someone who is as good and as talented as Ted McMillan falls in their lap, they're not going to pass him up.
Yeah, it's like the same thing in the draft with like CeeDee Lamb and AJ Terrell. It's like this isn't that hard, and we
Yeah.
we we, we came out of it pretty good. Again, I'm looking at this one. I think the what is it? Calvin Banks Jr., good pick for the 49ers there. Malachi Starks, the Dolphins. Jahdae Barrett, it's the same sort of thing with like Matthew Golden with Texas. I'm like, I don't know if I ever really saw it, but like, sure, why not? You're the Colts, figure it out.
See, I think with cornerback much more than wide receiver, that's a good thing that you never really saw it because that means they would like Jahdae Barron had his dude on lockdown. You just didn't see him get burned because they weren't throwing his way. And like when you dig into some of the stuff he did, it was really impressive. He's a guy who's moved around and been like a leader in that secondary quite a bit, but also like you look, he's played well in zone. He's played well in man. Like he can do whatever you ask, and I think that's a really good spot for the Colts to get him into.
Yeah, I have no idea what the Colts are going to try to do here
Their
because
their
of the Colts.
secondary is terrible. They should get someone in the secondary. If Malachi Starks didn't go the pick before, he would have been the pick for the Colts.
Yeah, just remember today on the first week of March, you're great at your job because Chris Ballard still has a job and he's the worst manager in
That's
the
right. Yeah,
NFL.
you can do whatever you set your mind to, even if you're bad at it.
And I don't know if they're gonna be bad at it here. Let's move on to 17 to 22. You got Cincinnati Bengals taking Matthew Golden out of Texas, Seahawks taking Mykel Williams out of Georgia, Buccaneers taking Geod Campbell out of Alabama, the Broncos taking Luscious Luther Burden out of Mizzou at 20, Steelers taking Emeka Egbuka at 21, and then the Chargers taking your boy Marion Hampton out of North Carolina. Um, I guess the Matthew Golden thing is like, let's just be cheap. We're not paying T. Wiggins anything.
Yeah.
That's I get the fit there, but other than that, like I don't know if the Bengals like love traits, but they tend to draft well for the most part. So if they see value there, then by all means, cool, I guess.
Yeah, and to me, this another report that came out of the combine was that Jamar Chase and the Bengals are super far apart on a contract extension. Look, if you're already like struggling to pay Jamar Chase, I don't have a lot of confidence that you're also going to be able to pay T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson. Like, I just don't have a confidence that an ownership group that's traditionally cheap is going to be able to do that. So, yeah, you're probably losing one of these wide receivers. So you need to draft a replacement. You got to keep Joe Burrow happy. And I'm a bigger fan of Golden even before the combine. And then to see him run that way, that shows me a trait that I didn't necessarily know was there.
I get there. So the next two are my favorite pick you made and my least favorite pick.
Okay.
Mykel Williams to the Seahawks. I love that. You got a Georgia guy playing for another Georgia alum. And Mike McDonald. Seahawks can go in a lot of different directions. A lot of people above them made mistakes. This is going to be fantastic. I think that they're going to use him effectively, and he's going to be like a multi-year Pro Bowler. Like I think that this is a fantastic pick. I love that one. I
Yeah.
hate Jihad Campbell to the Bucks.
Why do you hate it so much?
I just don't think he's. It kind of seems like it's giving out the same vibe of like all the Alabama linebackers of yesteryear. They come in there, they were completely like worn and broken down. I kind of feel this is a very desperate play out of Todd Bowles, potentially losing ground in the division and everything like that. And I don't know, like maybe it works out here, but I don't feel like it's necessarily the impactful pick that you need to sustain power over the Falcons, Panthers, and Saints. I know Campbell for a while. There's like, oh, top 40 pick. Now he's looking to be in the top 20, and I'm like, we'll see what happens. He could be incredible, or he could be Mark Barron.
So I will say this is not where I would take Jihad Campbell. I would take him probably much lower in the first round or even early second round. However, your points about Alabama linebackers are well taken. I think like I'm not going to hold past Alabama linebackers against a future player. Like I don't have that in me. At the same time, I will say that the Bucks value linebackers way more than I feel like a lot of people do. You look at Levante David, you look at Quan Alexander over the years. They valued this position a lot. Well, Levante David's getting older, and like that's kind of been the field general, and I think Jihad Campbell can step into that role. Like he held a lot of responsibility for that Alabama defense, and so I think drafting like basically Levante David's successor to come in there is something the Bucks would be interested in, even if it doesn't like strike us as a sexy type pick.
And just like Stevie Nicks and Levante David, I'm getting older too.
That's right.
I was sitting on that for a while. I don't know where I was going with that. Uh, Luther Bird to the Broncos is fantastic. Emeka Egbuka to the Steelers. It looks worse because Luther Bird went right above him, and then obviously I love Omarion Hampton going to the Chargers. Unless Jim Harbaugh breaks his will to compete, like which I think that's totally possible.
It's
He's
it's entirely possible, but it's also possible that Jim Harbaugh just sees him as the son he never had. Like that's entirely on the table.
he's had like four, but that doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
again, it's Jim Harbaugh, and that's 100% something he would say.
I want to see like a Marion Hampton like develop an Adrian Beltre thing where he does not like being touched on the shoulder pads, and Jim Harbaugh is just like,
Hey, buddy.
oh, I bet the homeowners association has so many complaints about him.
Oh my God, it's crazy.
There's a 60-year-old shirtless man yelling at our kids while cutting grass, and then leaving his running lawnmower, going to show him how a proper way to do a layup.
Can you imagine Jim Harbaugh going to like his kids' PTO meetings? It'd be incredible.
I just know at Eastside Baseball, if Jim Harbaugh was like a coach in the league, my dad would have gotten ejected. Just he's like, I'm not allowed to coach here next year, John. I can be an assistant because just Jim Harbaugh drives me up the wall.
That's right.
Okay, moving on to the latter part of our draft. We're going to go 23 through 28 with Packers taking Jalen Walker out of Georgia, Vikings taking Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, Texans taking North Dakota State, linebacker outside. Oh well, lineman, offensive lineman, Gray Zabel. I was trying so hard to say the name correctly, I couldn't say the position.
Been there, brother. Been there.
At 26, the Rams take Ohio State tackle Josh Simmons. Ravens take uh, Boston College edge Donovan Izuruku.
That's
That's probably
close
better.
enough. That's how I'm going with this.
And then the Lions take at 28 A&M edge Nick Scourton. Um, a lot of line meat right
Oh yeah, baby.
here.
This is a beefy run we went on right here.
I'm kind of shocked to see Kenneth Grant is still on the board. Maybe that's a great pick for Kwesi. I think with the Packers getting Jalen Walker, I think that that makes more sense in the aspect that, they don't get Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
The Eagles do. So you need to get something there.
Hmm.
And I feel the Packers need to get him more than anybody, but the Packers hate other people. They only hang out with their own family. They don't like yeah.
Yeah, no, they don't. And they also love Georgia defensive players. They've drafted a ton of them over the past like 3 years. So like this just
Oh
makes too
yeah.
much sense.
Devontae Wyatt, Quay Walker, Eric
Eric Stokes.
Stokes.
Yeah, like they love a Georgia defender. Like they just do. So here we are.
I don't know much about Zabel. Kind of surprised to see Josh Simmons down there. Maybe the medicals aren't good. I think that's a great pickup for the Rams. Although, like, I'm just kind of like the Rams, this is it. Like, this is the last year that they're going to do much of anything.
Yeah, no, so like this, there's the run on lineman here. Zabel is probably going to play guard. He played tackle at North Dakota State, but they put him at guard at the Senior Bowl and he dominated. Like he was just a monster at guards, and the Texans need interior help. So that one was pretty obvious for me. But you get in down to these tackles like Josh Simmons, Armand Membu, and Josh Connerly, and then there's a couple other guys like Ariante Ursary. And these guys I think are all going to end up being bunched up. Like I think it's going to be into the first round, early second round. We're going to see all these guys come off the board, but like they are clearly not in the same tier as Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, and other guys like that. So I just see them falling a little bit further than others.
Okay, and then moving on to like the last four, we got the Commanders taking Kentucky cornerback Maxwell Harrison to 29. The Bills getting Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State. Chiefs getting Armand Bimbu, offensive tackle out of Missouri. And then the Browns trade up back into the first round because of the Myles Garrett deal. They pick up Oregon offensive tackle Josh Connelly Jr. God, I love Jack Sawyer going to the Bills.
Dude, it feels so Billsy, doesn't it? Like I was like looking, I was like, okay, the Bills need an edge. They're probably going to cut Von Miller. I was like, who's it going to be? And Jack Sawyer's name's just sitting there staring at me in the face. I'm like, yeah, that's the guy. That's a Buffalo Bill I've ever seen. Like he's going to be out there jumping through tables with Bills Mafia. You know it to be true.
It's chicken, right? It's the chicken.
That's right.
Some people were meant to rush the passer, other people were meant to hang drywall, and this is false start.
Some are meant to do both, and those are Jack Sawyer.
The new concrete Charlie.
That's right.
It's still wild. Like back in the 40s and 50s, like people were working two jobs. Like Mickey Mantle was like going working in the mines and stuff.
Yeah, why? Like shouts to professional sports for paying a livable wage these days.
That's what it's all about. So yeah, we made it. We made it through your mock draft here and everything like that. I got a little more cool with it towards the end of the top. I'm like, whoa, whoa. But I realize you're the Daniel Jeremiah of the news desk. You're taking what people are saying and you're making it happen as opposed to what you may actually do. So I feel like a little bit less like a dick. So that's great.
Yeah, look, I'm not the my if it was what I would do, this draft would look a hell of a lot differently. But this is kind of just, reading the tea leaves and seeing where I think things are going. This is more predicted than anything.
It's not about being right, it's about getting it right. But
That's right.
but
Yeah,
but
I
but
love
but,
being right.
but being right's it's still really important to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I don't know who's right in this, but we're going to pat the dog with our next topic here. With the great Matt Rule versus Chris Del Conte non-conference debate that we didn't know we needed. So a couple weeks ago, maybe about 10 days ago, Matt Rule was just having a hissy fit saying that like, Nebraska canceled the Tennessee game. People were pissed.
Yeah.
Nebraska's got to pay $1 million to cancel the non-conference game. He's like, well, we got all the games we need, and then we got to play sometimes 5 home games in conference play. And the Crystal Conte not necessarily like poking at Mount Rule, but was saying like, oh, we're going to schedule anybody out here because our team, our players, and our fans demand it. So we're going to keep playing everybody. It's a game of risk there for Texas. So this is kind of wild. And I think the weird part is I think you and I are probably on the same, share a lot of the same overlap with big SEC and ACC with
Yeah.
this.
No, 100%. And I think that, for starters, I think where you have to start with this conversation is we're talking about different conference schedules, which I do think is a big factor. We're talking about a 9-game and an 8-game conference schedule. So, like, I do think that matters in this conversation. And, like, I can see the Nebraska side of it from that perspective. At the same time, you see basically a good portion of the upper echelon of the SEC routinely schedule very hard non-conference games. Like you see that routinely, and that's kind of what the big teams in the Big Ten do. You look at Michigan, you look at Ohio State. They're not playing like four or three patsies in the non-conference. Like Ohio State opens the season with Texas. Michigan played Texas last year. Like we see that routinely. This feels like a very little brother take from Nebraska. Like it absolutely does.
Yeah, I got some stuff on Matt Rule later for sure. It's like, well, you got to remember Chris Del Conte came over with Texas from the Big 12, so they were playing a 9-game conference schedule.
Yeah.
And when we had the Power Five initially in the college football playoff era, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the old Pac 12 had to play 9 conference games out of necessity. The Pac 12, it's like, well, people are bored. They don't know what to do. The conference isn't that strong, so they got to do this. It's the same sort of thing where like the Big 10 was down
Mhm.
and the Big 12 was down as well. The SEC was the king of college football. They didn't need to do it. The ACC had Florida State, Clemson didn't really need to do it. Also, the SEC and the ACC have 4 games in interconference that they play annually that they have to keep intact.
Right. No,
Other
I
leagues
mean,
don't.
it's tough.
Like, okay, North Carolina doesn't do that, but like they'd have a border where they played South Carolina. They would play South Carolina every year if they could.
Yeah, 100%. And like North Carolina always, they don't necessarily schedule, Texas or Ohio State or anything like that, but they're opening the season with TCU. Like they schedule a tough like power conference game in every like non-conference slate. Like we see that Clemson does the same pretty routinely as well. Like we see Clemson outside of the South Carolina game. Like they normally have another non-conference game that's normally of consequence, whether that's Georgia, whether that's someone else. Like Clemson does, I believe this year it's LSU if I'm not mistaken. I believe Clemson LSU is a matchup we get
Mhm.
early in the season. So like
Yes,
yeah, we see the upper echelon of these conferences do that. And like that's why I just like the way I settle on this is like Nebraska is like trying to act like a big brother while still clearly exhibiting signs of little brother behavior. Like Matt Rule wants to talk this big game like Nebraska's coming back, Nebraska's going to be back, and yet you're operating in a sense where it's like, well, you don't really look like it. You look like you're kind of just sheltering yourself so you can like bolster your record, even though like it feels incongruent, like their actions with what they're trying to preach.
100%. Yeah, Maya doesn't like Nebraska either. It's like you're saying like we got these 9 games. Well, back in the day, like on the herd, they used to always rip on Iowa because like they would never schedule anybody of
Yeah.
significance. They'd always be like, "Oh, we got to play Cyhawk." Well, at that point, Iowa State was awful trying to figure it out.
Right.
And they would never play anybody. They're in the Big Ten West. They're playing like again Nebraska, Minnesota, Wisconsin. You're not playing the big boys. Maybe you play Penn State occasionally over there in the Big Ten East, but it's like, look, I don't I will say this until I'm blue in the face. The Big Ten got 4 teams to make the playoff last year because it's got a soft tummy. They got
Yeah.
nothing like for Indiana to do that is an indictment of where the Big Ten is at the middle of the league. You've got Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon thriving. Michigan pulled back with a new coach, which is understandable, but
Yeah.
like you gotta like the SEC, you go down to like 8 teams or something like that. You're like, yeah, we got to deal with Missouri and A&M. I'm sure like that's not fun.
I mean, you go even further than that last year, like going to play at Jordan Hare, not a fun time. Like no one wants to go play at Jordan Hare. Like the SEC's middle, the belly, if you will, is much more substantial than the Big Ten's. Like, I don't think there's anyone who can argue that. I do think the Big Ten is improving that. Like, we think UCLA is going to like insert themselves. We think Illinois is actually going to elevate out of the soft tummy and into another tier this year. So, like, I do think it's getting better in the Big Ten, but that's still not like if you're Nebraska, you still can't operate that way. Like you're like it's a shocking lack of self-awareness from the Huskers.
There's so much there with Matt Rule. Like he's become my least favorite coach in the Power
It's
Four
up there. It's pretty
by a
bad.
considerable margin. It's like last year's like, oh, our wide receivers are going to murder everybody. You won 6 games.
Right. No, and I think like I you can push back if you disagree, but like I still think Matt Rule's a good coach.
Oh yeah,
I think that like everything he does is not something I would buy into, but for some reason players do seem to buy into it, and he has a history of turning programs around. Hell, you can argue that he is turning Nebraska around. They made a bowl game. They hadn't done so in almost a decade. Like that is a big deal. But like that doesn't mean we have to like the guy because we definitely like it's hard to at this point.
whoop-de-doo, Basil. What does it mean? He's like, no offense to the SEC. I'm like, first off, like, um, you're about like you're like a season away from taking over at Auburn.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, not just well, not maybe not just because of the challenging part that the Hugh Freeze schedule, but obviously he's dealing with some health issues. So
Yeah.
plus sub coach
Yeah,
with you.
we wish Hugh Freeze the best. That's hate to see that.
Yeah. And then you're also but like Matt Rule is also saying like, okay, we canceled the Tennessee game, which is the equivalent of you in the SEC.
Mhm.
And then you had like the Stones to say like, well, the non-conference didn't matter. They rewarded the team getting the playoff last year. And it's like, well, Texas has made it twice. Del Conte kind of knows what he's doing. You've never made it once.
Yeah, you've never
Like,
been close, frankly.
no, you may have made it in back in 2019 at Baylor, back in the day, but like you would have been this
Yeah.
past year's Indiana or SMU.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're talking about, and also like I'll push back on the idea that these like most of the teams that made the playoff didn't play anybody. Like even if you take like you can look at the obviously the conference champions. Like Oregon played Boise State in the non-conference. Maybe that's not a power conference game, but Boise State made the playoff. Like that's a good team that you played in the non-conference. Georgia
Mhm.
always plays a tough non-conference schedule, and you have Georgia Tech on there as well. And it's in addition to that. You look at Clemson, who won the ACC, getting in there. SMU played BYU in the
Yes.
non-conference. Like most of these teams, aside from like Indiana's probably the only one, most of the teams that made the playoff actually did play a pretty decent non-conference schedule.
Oh yeah, and I mean like what Tennessee played NC State, like they went out there, they tried. That's
Yeah.
upset, and that's really what I came down with the debate. It's like you have to try.
Mhm.
That's probably the biggest thing I learned from COVID. It's like you have to try. This isn't life's hard, but you have to try, and
Yeah.
you can't take your ball and go home unless you're Luna at fetch.
That's right. Then you definitely can. You can absolutely do that.
I tell you what, she's like right behind me. She's been doing this thing where like she'll take the tennis ball and then eat half of it and then, like leave it all on the ground, and then the other dogs start eating it. So like we get through about three tennis balls and we got to go home.
Hell yeah. I get it. You know,
Yeah, and I don't know if Matt Rule's eating a tennis ball or anything like that, but
can't rule
like
it out. Can't rule it out.
you can't RH, you can't rule it out with an H.
That's right. Yeah.
But I try to go about that differently. It's with the article. I'm like, this is like I can't defend Matt Rule here. I just couldn't do it. There's no. Oh my God. Could you imagine if like how much hate Kirby Smart would get if he said
Oh
something
yeah.
like that?
It would be unbelievable. And I also think like to your point about like yeah, you're not scheduling this Tennessee game and like he makes the point about non-conference schedules, but like if you play a tough schedule, that's not held against you. It's
No.
actually in your favor. Like people consider Georgia a lock, even though like their resume at the time in terms of wins was like pretty on par with other teams and like Georgia, like teams who were on the bubble, whereas Georgia was a lock. And it's because of the schedule that they played. Like you look at their schedule and it's like, well, yeah, of course they were going to lose two games. What the hell else did you expect to happen with that schedule? And like that's not all non-conference. Part of that is the SEC, but like yeah, a tough schedule is actually working in your favor when it comes to the playoff race.
At the end of the day, you want to give yourself and your team the benefit of the doubt. I think that Mount Rule's putting a lightning rod in his team, and it's for all the wrong reasons. He thinks he's going to be creating electricity, but he's going to be riding the lightning like Metallica.
That's right.
Moving on to our next topic, we're gonna do some Goldilocks here. Bill Connelly released his first S&P Plus rankings of the offseason. So we're gonna look at where he is too hot, too cold, and just right on. One of my favorite things about this, in looking at it, is mostly focusing on the top 25. I can't see Nebraska anywhere.
Yeah, weird. I don't know. I'm looking, but they're not even on the horizon, crazy enough.
No, for the record, Nebraska's 34, so they weren't that far off, but like we don't count 34th place.
That I mean, that's almost out like that's almost beyond like others receiving votes if we're talking about a top 25. You know what I mean? Like that's where they're at.
Yeah, so I kind of went into this deep dive a little bit on Friday. One that stood out to me, how the hell is Alabama number two?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where we got to start with too hot, brother. What are we doing here? I do not get it at all. Like I don't know where you're getting that from. Where are you getting that from? Like you're talking about a team that lost Jalen Milroe. You're talking about a team that lost Caleb Downs the year before, lost Julian Sand, Jalen Milroe's successor the year before, lost a bunch of other guys in the portal, losing Jihad Campbell. You like your secondary is still. I don't understand where this is coming from.
Yeah, for the record, the way Bill Connelly does this is he does returning production, returning or recent history, and like recent recruitment. So Alabama did return a lot of production. Recent recruitment's good. Recent history, it's been worse pretty much every year since what 2020.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I'm okay with him like being like near the top 10, but
Yeah.
two's a little rich.
Yeah, it's I'm not saying Alabama should be outside of the top 25, but like when you put them like okay, if we're weighing returning production, I think the returning production Penn State has is a little bit more important and Penn State's at
Yeah,
number 3. So like I just like I look at that and I'm like it just doesn't vibe right with me.
100%. Other team that's way too hot. Ole Miss at 9.
Dude,
Like
we're in lockstep. That's my second one. Hell yeah.
I think I had Ole Miss ranked like 24 in mine. I had Alabama at 13. Look, I trust the Lane Train to be able to generate a good offense. I trust the coaching staff to do a good job. They'll beat somebody they shouldn't, and they'll lose to somebody they shouldn't as well. This is Lane Kiffin Ole Miss football. It's the driver, but like a little more wide. Like,
Yeah.
2.5, 2.5.
That's right. No, and I think that when you like, I also believe in Lane. I believe in what he's doing, but I think that Ole Miss is going to fall back kind of into like what Texas A&M was this past season, where you're probably not actually a playoff contender, but you're definitely a top 25 team. And I think that's where Ole Miss is going to fall into. Like they're going to go 8-4, 9-3, I would assume. And like I think they're talented enough, and I trust Lane enough to be able to do that and maintain that. But like I don't think there's ever going to be really any point in the season where we're like, oh yeah, Ole Miss is a playoff contender because I just don't see that ceiling for them.
No, I don't. Anybody else on here? Like I've got three other ones that I listed on here. Anybody else that you think that you were just they're Bill Connelly's formula is way too hot on?
I'm also speaking of them, Texas A&M is the other one I had, man. Like
Mhm.
I think that it's a little rich to have them inside the top 15. Like I just think that they occupied that space outside of the like inside the top 25 but outside of the playoff picture last year. I think that might just be who Texas A&M is right now. I'm not the biggest believer in Marcel Reed. I'm a big believer in Mike Elko in this defense, and I think that's going to be their calling card, but I still think the offensive ceiling is going to be a bit limited. And so like I honestly view them and Ole Miss very similarly, and I think that they're both way too high on this.
Yes, A&M's a little bit too high. They should be closer to like the 20s and everything like that. Again, everybody gets super hyped up about Texas A&M every offseason, and then it's just Lucy pulling that football out, man.
We're gonna be Lucy this year. We're gonna hold the football. We're not gonna let it happen to us.
The last one I'm gonna throw in there, why the hell's Missouri 15?
I don't know. I really don't. And especially like if we're weighing returning in production, you lost Brady Cook and Luther Burden the third. What the hell production do you have returning?
It may be more on the defensive side of things, but Drink's an offensive minded coach. Missouri is just like it feels like I'm wrong about them every year. They're the NC State of the SEC.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. That's actually a really good call.
And then like I'm looking down here, like I'm kind of okay with everything else like that. I know that Auburn and Iowa is probably a little bit too high, but like not horribly.
Yeah, no, I actually have Auburn listed in another category coming here soon.
All right, who's too low?
So too cold is Clemson. We got to start with Clemson. Like
Yeah.
Clemson should be a top 5 team. There's no question about it in my mind. Like I think that probably if we're talking about why I believe they're at number 10 if I'm not mistaken, like why they're
Hmm.
there is the recruiting. Like they're not recruiting at the level of Alabama, of Georgia, of Texas, of Ohio State. Like I get that, but at the same time, they still recruited pretty damn well. They return a hell of a lot of production from both sides of the ball from last year. They're not losing hardly anything of consequence outside of Barrett Carter and Jeremiah, and sorry, just Barrett Carter. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. was the year before. And so like I look at this Clemson team and man, I don't know how you got this low on them. That doesn't make sense to me.
If you're like the biggest Clemson hater in the world, which you might actually be,
Yeah,
like
I have to keep saying nice things about Clemson and it's killing me inside.
I know it's like me saying nice things about Florida. I just try to be diplomatic about it. Like I can be homer about my team, but I gotta say nice things about other people occasionally.
Yeah.
I would say if you're the biggest Clemson hitter, like you could put them any lower in 7 in pretty much anything. Like that one's absurd. Illinois at 25 is ridiculous.
Yeah, I have Illinois listed as well. I don't get that. I don't they're much better than that, especially again, talking about returning production, and it's probably recruiting because Illinois has not recruited, but you know what Illinois does is they develop. And these
Yeah,
guys have gotten a lot better than what the recruiting rankings were.
yeah. Brett Bielema's a hell of a coach. Luke Altmaier's might be a Heisman contender at quarterback. Looking kind of more along the lines like I'm not as the offseason goes along, Illinois is either going to wear the satin kimono or they're going to make the playoff. It's that's kind of what it's going to be.
Oh yeah, 100%. Another team that I thought was way too low outside of the top 25, Arizona State. Why? Why is Arizona State outside of the top 25? That doesn't make sense to me.
Maybe just like, and I didn't even like. looking really outside the top 25. I was just trying to be as quick as possible, but yeah, that one's
Yeah.
like I'm like I'm like they should be where Mizzou is. They should flip.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this team was too good, and like, yes, you lost Cam Scotabo. I don't care. You replaced him. You got a veteran running back to come in there. You're bringing back your quarterback, most of your offensive line, your best wide receiver. Like, this is a team that should be getting more respect than it is than that.
You're trading out Orlando's fourth brother he didn't know about with the military man.
That's
How
right.
could
Yeah. What could go wrong?
I don't know, a lot can go wrong at Tempe.
That's true. That's very true.
That's that's the way that goes. I think Texas is too low at 7.
Yeah.
I just kind of like looking above, just honestly flip them with Alabama. Maybe that looks a little bit better. I mean, maybe 2 is too high for Texas in this,
Yeah. But I mean,
but
like, I also look at it from I feel like again, the returning production, like you're losing Quinn Ewers, you're losing Matthew Golden, you're losing a good bit, and like you're losing both of your starting offensive tackles. Like I understand some of the machinations that would make this happen. It still looks bad to have Texas at 7. Like they're at least top 5. Like switch them with Notre Dame. That would make sense. Put Texas at 5, and I would probably be happy with that.
for sure. And I guess like the last one that I think is they're too low, too cold on. Um, That's South Carolina at 16. I think
Yeah.
that they need to be like 12.
That's my other one. I had South Carolina. I wrote down like they should be flirting with the top 10. So 12 is right in that range.
And if I had to throw another one, maybe Louisville, but maybe I'm too high on them. But that's okay.
I think Louisville, I don't have them down, but I think they're in the just right category. Like I think that they have the potential to move higher than where they are, but like for me, they're just right now.
Which one is the most right? Which one's in the slot?
To well, okay. I'm all over the board with my just right because I got a little saucy with it. The most right is Kent State at 136, if we're being completely
Yeah.
honest. It's the worst team in college football, and it's not even close. Like, shouts to Delaware and Missouri State for joining the FCS. They're well above Kent State, and deservedly so. But if we're going higher on the board, I think Auburn is the most right of all of these because I think that we saw Auburn. Frankly, I think we saw Auburn overachieve a little bit based on what they had last year. Like, I think that Hugh Freeze is a good coach, and I think that this Auburn team was not set up to compete last year. Now I think they are set up to compete. You've got Jackson Arnold coming in. You've got a really good recruiting classes over the past 2 years. You've got a really good transfer portal class. Like, I think Auburn getting this, like getting into the top 25, that's exactly where they should be, where like I look at that 21 to 25 range in almost any ranking going into a season. We're talking about preseason. I look at that as the group of teams where it's like there's something there, but you got to prove it. And I think Auburn is perfectly situationed in that spot.
I think that's fair. The one that I think is the most right is Kansas State at 19.
I like that too. That's very good.
Yeah, I'm just like what they've done, what they've been for a long time. 19. Avery Johnson needs to be a little better. But I realistically, like this isn't one of those years where like we got K-State like at 13. Like
No.
this seems about right.
Yeah, and I think the other one that I have is Ohio State at 1. Like I don't
Yeah,
want to cop out, but like yeah, you should have the national champions at 1, especially with the way they recruit.
I'd also for sure. I think that's totally fair. LSU at 10 seems right.
Yeah, 100%. I like that.
Um, maybe not. I don't
The dogs
know.
disagree, but that's okay.
That's okay. Georgia at 4 seems like maybe a slightly high, but nothing too bad.
I
I don't
think
know.
I think another one that I kind of like the positioning of was Miami at 14.
Yeah,
Like kind of outside of the top 12 if you're talking about a playoff race. Like they're outside of that top 12, but like obviously have the talent, the requisite talent to be better than that. And I think like that 14 spot kind of is indicative of that.
and I think that's totally fair, totally within the realm of possibility. I'm gonna look where North Carolina is. I didn't even make it that far. North
We're
Carolina,
at 44, brother. 44. Which
come on.
I look, I love my Tar Heels. It might be a little high. Might be a little high.
They're returning nothing on special teams.
It's tough. It's tough out here.
But North Carolina, come on, to raise up. Let's move on to some Duhas for this next topic.
Yes, sir.
They're tossing around the idea. I don't know if it's happening or official, but the idea of Bill Belichick and Michael Lombardi potentially bringing hard knocks to college football in the ACC. Are you in favor of that, or are you not in favor of that?
I'm due Haas 1S. And part of that is me being selfish because I want to get the ins and outs of the North Carolina football team. Like I want to see what Bill Belichick and this staff are doing. But I also think if you're Bill Belichick in North Carolina, the best thing you have going for you right now is that you're Bill Belichick at North Carolina. So broadcast that. Broadcast the fact that a Super Bowl winning coach 6 times over is now coaching a college football program. That's something that recruits are going to see. That's something that transfer portal targets are going to see. That's how you start to build up this program is like you up the brand exposure that you're going to get. I think it's something that Mac Brown frankly struggled with is like you have Jordan Brand, you have the North Carolina tradition, you have all these advantages and you're not fully taking advantage of them. I think Bill Belichick and the staff are fully aware of what they need to do to be able to compete in this arena and I think this is something that can help with that.
I get what you're saying. One of the dogs just ripped ass around me, so I'm swinging a cloud.
But Godspeed, brother, that's tough.
Is that onion or ketchup? No, it's dog food.
Ketchup and onions.
I'm on the other side of this. I'm Duhas two S's. And my thing is, well, I totally agree with you. Like, this is great for the brand, the Belichick brand, everything like that. I think there's just two things. It's like one, it's like if you haven't like been in college in a long time, like there
Yeah.
may be some things that you're like learning on the fly, and people are like, "Oh my God, he's an idiot. What are we doing?" Like that could be some sort of negative recruitment. But I would also say the biggest reason why I would probably say Duhas 2S is like these are kids, man. And like I think putting a camera in front of them, like when I was 18 to 23 years old, I was really dumb.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody becomes like a TikTok star because of this and they take their ball and go home.
Yeah.
I would also say like this is college. I'm like, what if they get some sort of hazing thing on there? That could be really bad.
And all of those are valid concerns, to be very clear. I think like if I'm just trying to look at it like from the optimistic point of view, that's where I'm coming from. But like in terms of the problems of doing this with a college program as opposed to an NFL franchise, like you're spot on with that. Like I think that I don't know if I would want to see like college hard knocks be a regular thing. I do think that when you're talking about Bill Belichick, I'm not as worried about a hazing situation because I know if I was an 18 to 22-year-old, I'd be pretty damn scared of Bill Belichick. Like I wouldn't want to incur that wrath.
No, 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 sir. I mean, I will say that like North Carolina is probably like if anybody's gonna do it, they could do it. Why not? Or honestly, Army could do it. Like,
Yeah,
he needs
Army would be kind of sick, actually. Yeah.
um, side story. So, was hanging out with my friends this past weekend, and my buddy Steve has a new job, and he's working on his feet all the time. He's like, "The job is great, but I'm getting really tired. Like, I just they got rid of like every desk is stand up desk. I'm like, well, I work on my ass like 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
So he's like going to the bathroom a lot more to get some respites.
Oh my
And I'm saying like there's probably some dude in the bathroom just ripping a menthol just because life's hard.
Oh, dude, yeah, 100%. Gotta be.
And I was just saying like, every time you hear a menthol, it's supposed to smell, because I messed up, like every time you hear a menthol, like I'm transported back in time to that moment. It sounds different.
You gotta hear a menthol, man.
You hear the Camel Crush pop and you're
That's right.
back.
That's exactly what I was thinking, dude.
Oh man, but like
It,
uh
it it used to be a party trick of mine because one fun fact about me, I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. To be clear, not anti like nicotine or anything like that, but I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. And but I had some buddies in high school who did smoke Camel Crushes. And do you know what the actual crush thing is? Did you ever pull one out of the filter? Because I did.
no.
And my party trick was I would eat it because all it is, do you remember those icebreakers liquid gels things? That's literally
Yeah.
what's in a Camel Crush. It tastes the exact same. It's unbelievable.
And that's what Bill Belichick's doing. It's like you don't listen to me. I'm gonna pull your icebreaker out of your Camel Crush.
That's right.
We're gonna send you to Wake Forest, brother.
Yeah, yeah. You're ripping a straight lung dart, no filter.
I'll kill her, no filter.
That's
This is
right.
false start. Oh man, that's ridiculous. Dogs are going crazy. let's remember some dudes.
Let's remember him, man.
All right. I'm gonna start with my guy. This is a
Okay.
guy that Patton Robinette, the quarterback at Vanderbilt.
Oh, hell yes.
This is a guy that was like a run for his quarterback out of like Tennessee. He could have played for the Vols. The Vols were so down. Vanderbilt was good. And he was a great player there for James Franklin. Took a lot of shots to the head, but the man
Oh
was
yeah.
tough as hell.
Hell yeah, man. I mean that, Vanderbilt's had some quarterbacks run through that place, that's for sure.
Who do you want to remember?
So I went straight Homer for my first guy. Marquise Williams, man. I loved Marquise Williams. He's
Yeah.
not that good, but like I enjoyed the hell out of watching him play for North Carolina. And also found out kind of looking into what he's doing now. Didn't mount too much in the NFL. Had a cup of coffee in the AAF before it went defunct. Had a cup of coffee in the XFL. Didn't really do anything there. And I think only played a year there. Now he's a Twitch streamer and he streams playing as himself on Madden 21, which is just an ultimate flex. Love that. But at North Carolina, he came in, I believe, as a sophomore. It was when Bryn Renner got hurt and just never relinquished the starting job for 2.5 years. Like he was a guy who really stabilized the program and got better and helped elevate the program to get to a spot where it was in a much healthier spot. Now, it didn't stay there for a little bit, but in his senior year, they made the ACC championship game. I remember distinctly watching that when I was still living in Wilmington, North Carolina, at a house party. Everyone's trying to talk and have a good time, and I'm just glued trying to watch Marquise Williams upset Clemson.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what it's all about. A guy talking about a guy that I remember. I forgot, and I re-remembered. Maybe we talked about him on previous programs. I'm gonna go with Louisville running back Michael Bush.
Oh, dude, Michael Bush was awesome.
Yeah. So like I'm watching the league, and they're like looking to trade him. This is talking like people back in like 2011 or whatever when he's still
Yeah,
playing. He's kind of like a rotational running back, but I remember like the Louisville brand, like back in the old Big East days, it was like, okay, West Virginia was like the powerhouse with like Steve Slade and Pat White. Like everybody knew about that. Maybe I was a little bit too young to remember too much about the Syracuse heyday there. I remember Pitt with Larry Fitzgerald a bunch,
yeah,
but I remember like there was a guy for Louisville, like not Stephon LaFleur's, who was who like had deaf parents. Like
yeah.
Louisville had a dude. I'm gonna remember this. Like this Michael Bush.
It was
It
Michael
was just
Bush, man.
yeah, Michael Bush, man.
That was a guy.
That was the dude, man. Who else you got?
So another guy that I remember, this is one of my like earlier memories. So like I don't have like clear memories of this, but I remember really enjoying Peter Warrick when he was at Florida State,
Are you
man.
serious? That's who I was just gonna bring up. Yeah.
No way. Dude, love Peter Warrick, man. Like that was a dude that just like made me, in that time, same time frame. Peter Warrick and Peerless Price. Like those were
Yes.
two guys that like made me like fall in love with the wide receiver position. I was just like, oh my God, these dudes are going to be like Hall of Fame level pros. It didn't really work out that way for either of them, but God, they were a lot of fun at college.
So like one of my best friends in elementary school was a big FSU fan. His parents went there, they met there, and just binder, he'd write FSU and try to draw stuff. He just loved it. He had Peter Work jerseys, he'd bring it in and
Hell
everything like
yes.
that. This is before NIL or whatever it was.
Yeah,
And we were sitting there, he's like, he got like him and Lavernius Coles got arrested at Dillard's for stealing a bunch of stuff.
that's right. Of course they did.
I might have been 8 or 9. We thought that was cool as hell.
Absolutely.
Because again, like back in like third grade, it was about Dennis Rodman and Peter Warwick.
That's
We
right.
did we had moved on from Michael Jordan very quickly at Kincaid Elementary School, so that's good. I'll go with another guy that's kind of like maybe like the same sort of time frame, and you know him from be playing for your team. Let's go Texas A&M linebacker Dat Win.
Oh, I like that. Dat Win, what a guy.
Yeah, Dat Win was like everything that we wanted Manti Te'o to be.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%.
Tried really hard, got so far, but in the end, it mattered because he was a hell of a college football player for RC Slocum. Just making, I just remember like the very late, like it was like 98 or 99. A&M had like a really, really, really great year. And I just remember like seeing like, what is this on the TV? Dat win.
Who is this guy? Who is that?
Who is that? It's that. That'd be that. It's that.
Yeah, it's that.
That. It'd be like that. You got anybody else?
I got one more, and this is a late addition because you reminded me of it with the Peter Warrick stuff. I'm gonna remember Arkansas tight end Jeremy Sprinkle for the funniest bowl season story of all time, playing at the Belk Bowl, which is when you got the $500 gift card to Belk if you were playing in the Belk Bowl. Goes to Belk with his gift card, and then proceeds to get arrested for shoplifting before the Belk Bowl. Shouts to Jeremy Sprinkle. What a legend.
Um, they're built differently back then. Now it's the Mayo Bowl because I don't think you want to steal that.
No, no, no. I mean, unless you're Will Levis, no.
No, no, not at all. I'll go out with two more because like Peter Warrick was going to be good, and let's go with one of my favorite players and a fantasy team after him. Let's go with Ole Miss wide receiver, running back, gadget player Dexter McCluster.
Oh, yeah, sexy Dexy before Dexter Lawrence. Let's go.
Yeah, like I think he played like it was the very end of like Houston Nut there. We're like, oh, Jevon State's gonna be great. And that Ole Miss team went like 3-9.
I know, they were not very good.
But I had a team when he was on the fantasy team when he was in the Titans. He was in my flex. Did not draft well. We were called the McCluster Funks.
Funks, yes, sir.
Yeah, he was I thought he was gonna be so much better in the NFL than what he was, but he was a great college player. I love watching him play.
No, no, 100%. Like he was kind of like the like Noel Devine you had at home. Is kind of what I would
Mhm.
describe him as. Like super electric, but maybe not quite as electric as some other guys.
And I'm gonna finish with one guy. Just put on a really, really sour note. I don't
Oh,
know.
good. Okay.
This is a guy that elicited a lot of feelings for me, like just like how I kind of got into college football and just like hated just being a massive Tennessee hater. Let's go quarterback Jonathan Crompton. Let's go with
Oh
him.
my
'Cause
God.
I will never forget this. So Tennessee was really good at the start of my college career. So like '07, like when I was a senior in high school, they won the SEC or they won the East. I think they lost to LSU, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken. '08, I think Georgia beat them. That was Fulmer's last year. They did not make a bowl game that year. '09 was the Kiffin year, and then it was Derek Dooley. So Crompton,
Derek Dooley, God, I forget about Derek Dooley frequently.
Crompton was the guy before Tyler Bray.
Right.
We're gonna do that next time. We're gonna talk about Tyler Bray for like 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But Jonathan Crompton, I just kind of was like, everyone's like, he's gonna be so great, and he was not. I'll never forget this. The '09 game, Georgia loses to Tennessee. My friend Josh got so mad he took a bunch of paint cans out of a closet and just threw them on a fence. Just and he got fined. He wasn't allowed to go to City for a while because he just wrecked our property.
It'd be like that sometimes. It'd be like that.
But I think the big thing, the lasting memory in my mind was him at 2 in the morning screaming Jonathan F. Crompton. And that's
You
how I
get
knew SC football was different. Like this game can ruin your weekend.
you're both different if you're just yelling Jonathan F. and Crompton in the streets.
Uh,
Oh
uh,
my God.
that's a core memory for me. A lot of my Georgia ones for football weren't good to begin with, but that struck a tone with me. I'm transported back in time to October 2009.
100%. Oh my God. You need to get him a Jonathan Crompton jersey. Just as a gag.
I mean he'll block my phone number again. It's fine. And and speaking of phone numbers,
Yes,
we're going to be
sir.
talking. We're going to do some just like Novocaine with an English area code with some plus 44. The reason
Yes,
we're
sir.
doing this is because one of their songs is called 155. This is episode 155.
There we go.
Not really a super group, more of a side project. It was basically Mark Hoppus and Travis Barker and two other dudes who played guitar making a band while Tom DeLonge did the much better product, which is Aaron Angels and Airwaves.
Angels and Arrows slabs. Like there's no doubt about it. But I also enjoy plus 44. I think they're solid.
They are solid, but are they solid as a rock? Let's get started with the first song, their biggest hit, "When Your Heart Stops Beating." Who is that?
Oh, that's Kirk Ferentz, baby. He'll be there when your heart stops
Yes.
beating. You know he will be. Like we're gonna die before Kirk Ferentz leaves Iowa. Like I've convinced myself of that. Like I feel like it's been if not three consecutive off seasons. It's like, is this the last year for Kirk Ferentz? It's never the last year. It's never going to be the last year. Until our heart stops beating, that man is going to be coaching Hawkeyes football.
That's who I had.
Yes.
I'll add to that. It's like you're looking at the lyrics like, oh, this is pretty dark. It's you're thinking like, oh, Blink-182 summer fun time, whatever it is. He's like, I will be there when your heart stops beating, your last breath's carried away. And it's they talk about Beth Getz. You fired my son.
That's right. This is for Brian.
You you sent him to Fresno. You might as well euthanize him.
Oh my God, that's funny.
And then I'll add Lou Holtz for
Oh
Brian
yeah,
Day.
absolutely.
Just where's your dad, Lou? Where's your dad, Brian Day?
Oh my God. Oh
Okay. Probably their hit, I guess, Looking Through, which is about werewolves. Or
yeah, so I have Matt Rule for one line and one line only, and that is, yeah, you can just stop talking. I get it. And we've talked a lot about Matt Rule, and I he really just needs to not talk ever, and I would like him a whole hell of a lot more.
um I have him coming up later. But I like
Okay.
that. Waking up at the end of a long, dark, cold year, whatever that one is. That would be Mike Norvell and Mike Gundy. It's bringing out the worst in them.
Yeah, that's facts.
Also, Mike Norvell could definitely be a werewolf.
I would not put it past him. It's absolutely in the cards.
And Gators hunting rabbits. No, he's hunting werewolves.
Of course he is.
Also, can we get FSU, Oklahoma State, home and home, please? For the God.
We need it desperately.
um, I don't know if Gators gonna. I don't know if Gators equipped to handle a werewolf, but we'll see.
Gator's equipped to handle whatever Mike says he's equipped to handle.
Gator, go get that licking throw.
That's right.
All right, let's go. Let's move on to Baby Come On.
Oh, that's Rich Rodriguez at West Virginia, baby. The past is just the future with the lights on. We're going back to the past. And I think I'm higher on Rich Rod than most of the West Virginia fan base, honestly. I understand why there are some complicated feelings with that. Dude's a good football coach. Dude had a lot of success at West Virginia. I would argue the last coach to have real tangible success at West Virginia. Maybe just
I
bring that back.
Baby Come On. That's a
Yeah,
Patrick Pat McAfee. Baby Come On to West Virginia.
that's right, baby. Come on.
This is where I have Matt Rule. Where it's like, quit crying your eyes out, baby. Come on.
There we go.
Just a crybaby, and also that also fits for Brian Kelly, who cries a lot. He's also kind of got even though he's like 60 something, he's got a very cherubic face.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's I actually we weirdly enough the NC State podcast and I watched Death Becomes Her last night. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but there's a potion that keeps you young forever, and I think Brian Kelly may have like taken like a half bottle of that because he looks old and young at the same time, and it's a very weird thing.
You ever see like I don't know if like there's like a picture of me when I was like 4, where like I had like the sweater vest and the perfectly combed to the side hair. Clearly I've devolved from that, but like I look like I was born 40 years old. But like the pictures you see of like little kids like getting the pictures taken at like Walmart or something like that,
Yeah.
they come out of the womb in Sheboygan, they look 40.
That's it. I mean, it's just how it happens. You can't, and come out looking 40 and telling people to park cars.
Yeah, I'm an accountant.
That's right.
Uh, I filed my first tax return with my parents at 11.
That's
I saw some
right.
discrepancies. All right. The reason we did plus 44 today, let's do 155. Who do you got for that?
Oh, that's Vandy. That's the Vanderbilt Commodores, baby, because dry your eyes and go down to the water, even if it's the last time. Man, we're taking the goalpost back to the river. One last ride with Diego Pavia, the live dog. Let's go, baby. I'm hoping that this isn't the last ride for Vandy. I really am, but like there is a chance that they really pull back in 2026, losing the things that they're going to lose from this roster. So I'm gonna enjoy the ride going 155, baby.
There was a joke about Antonio Banderas at the Oscars I can't say on the air. Uh, but 155, that's probably what Antonio thinks he weighs.
Oh
And
yeah,
that's how many
100%.
and that's how many beers he drinks in a Vandy party weekend.
That's right.
Birthdays.
Birthdays, baby.
I don't know if I can top that, but so this is what I got. I got Kalen DeBoer. This is the time. This isn't the time to talk about this. Is making too much sense or whatever. It's like I don't want to hear about your guys. You're at Alabama. Like I don't care. Just go down to the water and get you some players.
That's right. Yeah. The water being anywhere in the southeastern United States.
And love, this is getting harder. That's Mark Stoops.
Oh yeah, 100%.
The reason that song is called 155 is that's how many beats per minute that's recorded at.
Nice. Like it.
Our intro is at 160, so we're a little bit faster.
That's right. Always false start. That's why we got so many false starts.
I know, absolutely. I don't know if you want to false start cliff diving, but we're gonna try. Who do you got for that?
That's Brent Venables, baby. You know it is. Going back to alma mater, this times I'll do things proper. How did it get to this? Because Brent Venables came in and it was, I'm a guy who understands Oklahoma tradition. I'm a guy who knows the ins and outs of Oklahoma football. I've been here before. I'm coming back home. How'd we get here? Because this doesn't look like Oklahoma football to me, brother. This looks like dog water. This looks like dog ass. I can't, this is not it.
No, no, that's really good. Here comes the promise of summer. That would be Mr. Shaky Baby's kissing hands, Joe
Yes,
McGuire.
it is. Yes, it is.
Maybe, and then "Kiss Me, Silly Girl" or whatever that is. Hate to say it, that's a Bill Belichick.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is, my boy.
Here comes the promise of summer.
Oh God.
What you listen to on your Walkman. Uh,
Oh my God.
and finally, let's go with "No, It Isn't." The plus 44 song that Mark wrote to hate Tom, and Tom's is "Start the Machine."
Yeah, this is Lincoln Riley. So please understand, this isn't just goodbye. This is I can't stand you. And that's what Jake Cohen's gonna say to Lincoln Riley at the end of his USC tenure. You have to imagine, I'm sure there's a large portion of the USC fan base that still believes that Lincoln Riley can turn this around because of what he did at Oklahoma. I'm sure there are people in the USC program that believe that. I don't think Jen Cohen's one of those people. And I think Jen Cohen is like saddled with this and is trying her best to get out of this, but it's going to end ugly for Lincoln Riley and USC with the way things are trending.
I think so. I had a feeling you might put that one down, so I went a little bit different. I didn't actually do head coaches for this.
There we go. Let's go.
I did. I went Jim Knowles. I feel like breaking down something beautiful in Ohio State, just leaving.
Yes.
This isn't just goodbye. This is I can't stand you.
Yeah.
Right
Oh my
now.
God, that's good. That's better than Lincoln, I think.
I think I might be able to top for the next one. So give me a
Okay,
second.
okay.
This is a section of the Georgia fan base saying that to Carson Beck.
It's true. It's very true.
Burn down something beautiful. Your Lambo.
It's tough. It's tough.
Uh,
Oh God, that's good.
that's good. I'm glad Blink-182 is back together. Maybe we'll remember Carson Beck's Miami team about as much as we remember plus 44.
That's right. We can only hope.
Because this was episode 155 of False Start. You can follow me, John Buhler, on Twitter, the X, at Buhler118. You can follow Cody Williams at the Sizzle20. You can follow the show at CFB False Start. Like, rate, listen, subscribe, review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere there's podcasts. Hold on. There we go. 5-star review.
I had something in my pocket. I didn't know what it was.
I don't look. I don't think anything is better than a 5-star Frocket review.
No, no, absolutely not.
No, but a little upkeeping here. Yeah, I'm going to be recording here and down at Krog Street again on Thursday, and then I think Cody is going to be moving.
Yes, I will be. TBD on if I can even record on Monday, but we will try our damnedest to be able to record on Monday.
But I will be back at Casa de. I will be back in the cute store. That's what we'll be.
Hell yeah, baby.
Oh my God. I wish I could say the Antonio Banderas bit on here.
Oh my God.
I can't, but let's go
Yeah,
down. Let's go down to the water.
let's get down to the water.
Let's go down to the water one more time, boys. Let's come on, boys. Let's go, boys. And this is false start. Why not?